Ukraine has been hit by a giant attack, a massive attack. Like, I don't have the numbers sort of on top of my head. Let me see here. It's 100 missiles and more or less 100 drones all over the country. The entire country has been attacked. It sort of just happened as Ukraine has attacked Kursk, has been moving ahead in Kursk, and as Ukraine has been facing trouble in Donetsk, in Pokrovsk area, which, according to President Zelensky, is going to be reinforced. But we'll see what's going to happen um, in that whole situation. We're not talking about that right now. Right now, we're talking about a massive attack that happened today in Ukraine. So far as I know, 7 people died and several others have been injured, thanks to the fact that about 200 out of 230 launched missiles and drones have been shot down. So that is sort of, think about it. If it weren't for aid, if it weren't for Ukraine having a workable anti-air defense, we would have seen a lot more dead, a lot more injured. And still, even though Ukraine has received some amount of anti-air, still some of it got through, still people died, still a lot of people suffered. Of course, Russia has targeted critical infrastructure, energy, because Russia really wants to freeze out Ukrainian people over the winter. That is the goal. And so there's been a few um, things that can be talked about it. There is the fact, of course, Kyiv has been targeted. Kyiv always gets targeted, but Kyiv has the best anti-air defense in the entirety of Ukraine. And of course, Zelensky has rightfully so used this opportunity to ask the West to lift restrictions, because I'll just remind you that the restrictions that have been in place all this time are still in place, and that Ukraine is still not allowed to use long range missiles to strike within Russia, and disable the rocket launchers, disable all the airfields, disable all the means with which Russia has been bombarding Ukraine, and still is. Yesterday was, I think, the biggest attack. Well, not yesterday, today. Today has been the biggest attack in months when it comes to attacking Ukraine. And also, there's this sort of side effect of this whole thing. Of course, Poland, as always, has lifted its jets off the ground as a show, because, Ukraine is being attacked. So, in a clear show of solidarity, Poland has lifted its jets off the ground to sort of fly them around and, I don't know, do nothing, because, of course, it is still my belief that Poland should be shooting down missiles and drones above the Ukrainian sky. That should be something that, especially, it would have been good if it happened today, because that would have meant that even less of them would have reached their targets. But apparently, something that is suspected to be a Russian drone has entered Polish airspace. That's right, a Russian drone has entered Polish airspace and is still being looked for. A total of 5 times already, Russia has violated Polish territory. Polish territory has been violated 5 times since the beginning of the war. interestingly enough. And all 5 times, Poland has done nothing, absolutely nothing to stop those missiles. And right now, a drone from entering Polish space. They've not been shot down, they've not been intercepted. Some of them have entered Polish territory and came back to Ukraine to destroy targets in Ukraine, which is a worrying trend, and which, as always, is being seen as a probing technique by Russia to see how the West will react to such an attack, or an attack will to such a thing happening. A missile flying into Polish airspace, a drone flying into Polish space. Will anyone react? Will anyone say anything? That's basically like the gist of it. So, Russia's main strategy, as we know, like we are all the time witnessing, for the most part, this sort of weird balance when it comes to what one side does and when it comes to what the other side does. When Ukraine attacked Kursk, it actually evacuates civilians. It actually takes care of civilians that Russia leaves behind. There are videos in which Russian civilians actually greet Ukrainian soldiers. Some of them even greet them in Ukrainian. You can see such videos. There was a video that I've seen of a disabled old woman that was left behind, and Ukrainian soldiers brought her food and drink. An elderly woman that could not walk or move. And on the other hand, we have Russia. We have Russia, which, in quote unquote retaliation for Ukraine entering Russian territory in the first place, has decided to bomb the entirety of Ukraine, including critical infrastructure, and to freeze, to deprive Ukrainian people of electricity, and of course, bombing cities, bombing civilians as retaliation for Ukraine attacking military targets. Just keep that in mind. And it's even said on Monday, the Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov confirmed that the strikes were in retaliation for Ukraine's incursion into Kursk. He added that the topic of ceasefire negotiations with Ukraine has pretty much lost its relevance because apparently the entry into Kursk has stopped some secret peace talks that have been going on behind the scenes. Behind the scenes, some talks about a partial ceasefire have been going on, but since Ukraine has entered Kursk, Russia has said that no negotiation is on the table anymore. Of course, Russia has been attacking the Ukrainian energy grid for some time now. I have had the displeasure of feeling the effects of such attacks on my own skin. I have felt, I have bore witness, I have experienced, I have went through many, many blackouts. Sometimes on some days more often we had no energy, and then energy at all. Of course, I've been in places that have power banks, so it's been a cycle of, okay, now we have energy, so we can just do, we can use this time to charge all of our devices, stuff like that. Oh yeah, and of course, when we have electricity, we have to sort of charge the power bank because the power bank is the only thing that keeps anything working, including the internet, when the electricity is off. So we have to do that, and then, boo, everything goes off, and suddenly you depend on your battery to last as long as it takes before the energy comes back again. Apparently, due to what's been happening, due to what's been happening overall. Tomorrow, Kyiv, I believe, will have no electricity throughout the day, because apparently Russia has damaged even more electrical infrastructure in Ukraine. Which, by the way, interestingly enough, from what I'm reading, from what I've been checking, it has effect not just on Ukraine. The attacks on critical infrastructure in Ukraine is starting to have effects not just in Ukraine. Moldova has started experiencing blackouts, just so you know. Moldova, which is not Ukraine as we know, has started experiencing blackouts. Of course, Moldova has said that it's not a problem long term, that it produces enough electricity domestically to sort of combat this little issue that has sort of showed up. But it remains a fact that due to the attacks on the Ukrainian infrastructure, electrical infrastructure, other countries than just Ukraine has started experiencing blackouts. Moldova, in this case. And we're just going to see, the more attacks like this will happen, the more blackouts we'll have to suffer through. And of course, everybody's worried about what exactly is going to be happening during the winter, where electricity is pretty crucial. And of course, there's the matter of like how attacks like this might continue again. Oh yeah, there's also an interesting point to be made that today's attack has a bill attached to it. It's like over $1 billion. This attack has cost Russia over $1 billion, as estimated by some groups. Over $1 billion attack. On civilian infrastructure, on critical infrastructure, an attack on infrastructure with the main design of making Ukrainian civilians' life miserable, unlivable, to make the conditions for the Ukrainian citizens impossible. This is all done thinking about the upcoming winter. The upcoming winter, heating, etc. This is what it's done in mind with this, like a long-term thing. And I suspect that there will be a lot more attacks on Ukrainian infrastructure, electric infrastructure to come. I wonder, there are many things to sort of think about when it comes to Moscow had not only used cruise missiles and drones, but also Kinzhal hypersonic missiles, which are more difficult to defend against. And how many people? I'm going to look up the freshest data. How many people have died? Last time I checked, it was 7. Let's see. Yes. The Independent from 11 minutes ago. 7 killed in biggest air attack of war, says Zelensky. I suspect the number will increase. I'm gonna watch this little video, the speech of Zelensky. Might as well. All day today, the rubble in Kramatorsk
Сьогодні в Краматорську тривав розбір
was being cleared after a Russian missile strike.
завалів після удару російської ракети. Постраждали, зокрема,
Among those were journalists,
журналісти, знімальна група
including a film crew from Reuters,
агенції Reuters, громадяни
citizens of Ukraine, America, and Britain.
України, Америки.
So that means that, I don't know. Of course, it's not surprising since Russia indiscriminately attacks journalists as well as medical personnel. So we might see more and more victims among those people as Russia decides to ramp up these attacks. Of course, we will see in practice how much can Russia keep these attacks up on such scale, considering that just today's attack had cost Russia over $1 billion.
Та Британії.
Well, there is one strategic thing that this sort of thing can achieve, and that is, from Russia's perspective, terrorizing the populace. Because Russia, as much as Russia did not manage to kill many people, it did manage to injure many people, but it did manage to, again, damage the critical infrastructure, the energy infrastructure. So once again, we have more blackouts, we have more pauses in electricity, which might become quite a bit of a problem if this keeps up, if there will be a lot of blackouts during the winter. That might actually become a problem for a lot of people, which might actually lead to many people leaving, which might create another refugee sort of wave. So we cannot say that Russia is achieving absolutely nothing potentially strategically. Citizens of Ukraine, America, and Britain.
Звичайний міський готель
An ordinary city hotel was destroyed
був зруйнований російським
by a Russian Iskander missile,
Іскандером. Абсолютно
deliberately, purposefully.
цілеспрямовано, продумано. Від цього
This
удару
strike injured 7 people and took 1 life.
7 людей постраждали, 1 людина загинула. Мої співчуття
My condolences to the family and friends.
рідним та близьким. І це
This is the daily Russian terror that continues.
щоденний російський терор, який продовжується. Бо
Because Russia still has the means to continue.
Росії є можливість продовжувати.
Poland is still searching for the Russian drone. Possible Russian drone. There have been, I've seen YouTubers, I've seen commentators that have been saying that it's known for sure that Poland has been hit by a Russian drone, but actually it's much more ambiguous than that. It's Poland is being much more careful about reporting on this than many English-speaking online commentators. Let me just say that. And during the attack, an object flying into the Polish space has been detected. Apparently, due to bad weather conditions, it was not allowed for the object to be intercepted. Let's just say I will believe it. Bad weather conditions, the potential Russian drone could not be intercepted. And now it has landed somewhere, and Poland is in the middle of looking for it. 25 kilometers into Poland. That is apparently how far the drone has targeted, traveled into. Let's see the quote by General Maciej Klisz, operational commander of the armed forces. The object was confirmed by radio location by at least 3 radar stations. I had full control and I was ready to shoot it down. I was also in contact with the Minister of Defense, Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz. So this guy says that he was ready to shoot it down. But I've read somewhere else that the bad weather conditions did not allow it. You know? Oh yeah, it says here. Polish regulations mandate that before a decision is made to shoot down an airborne object, the pilot of a military aircraft must visually identify the target. This rule aims to prevent the accidental downing of civilian aircraft that may have lost radio contact. Which, by the way, is something that differentiates Poland from, let's say, Russia. Russia has no problem downing civilian planes, as we've witnessed in the past, unfortunately, for the civilians. Poland plays by different rules. Poland needs visual confirmation. Poland does not want to be like Russia. We will conduct the search until we reach a conclusion, he said, assuring that updates will be provided regularly, which I am looking forward to those updates because I want a 100% confirmation of what is it that has entered Polish airspace. Many people speculate that it is probably a Shahed drone. Search operation for the unidentified aerial object in eastern Poland. It is speculated that it is a Shahed drone. We are discussing the big attack on Ukraine, a big, dare I say, terrorist attack on Ukraine, since its aim is to terrorize the citizenry of Ukraine and to sort of deprive it of electricity. That's also one of the big goals, to deprive Ukraine electricity for the upcoming winter. Which again would cause destabilization, which again would cause potentially a wave of refugees going westward, which, by the way, inevitably would impact the Ukrainian economy, because as much as Ukraine depends on continuous aid to function, as much as Ukraine receives aid to keep its economy afloat and to continue its military incursions to defend itself and to, for example, go into Kursk, at the end of the day, Ukraine, as all countries, depend on its citizens to maintain its economy, which is why it is so critical, apart from the obvious reason why Ukraine defends its citizens with its anti-air. Apart from citizens' safety alone, of course, the other obvious reason is that if the cities can function more or less normally, even though they're being bombarded, even though missiles, drones, and other things are being sent, if the citizens can function normally, then the economy can function normally, right? Right. Okay.